Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today. Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
All right, welcome back to the Survival of Basic Badass podcast with Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk about living the dream and how to get there. That's really it. We're basically going to go into how you kind of pick out your homestead location, maybe your off-grid whatever, and how to get to that lifestyle. How do we go from working 9 to 5 for the man in the city to being self-sufficient, or maybe just more self-sufficient? You know, I'm not talking about using leaves for toilet paper. I'm not talking, especially not poison ivy. That's not somewhere I want to go. But I also want to kind of get out there and get a little more away from where I'm at. And I think we all, in our mind, have some kind of dream property or, something we want to attain. I know I've been really spending the last year trying to putting together the vision of where do I want to move, what do I want to, do, what do I want to build my life into. Mm-hmm. And basically that's what this episode's about, is how to plan, how to get there. Kevin, you said there's a lot of things to consider when you want to start simplifying your life in order to be able to achieve those goals, right?
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of information out there when you start doing some research, but some basic things you're going to want to do before you really start your plan, your move.
Yeah.
You're going to want to come up with a decent plan on how you're going to get there.
Well, that's it. I mean, you know what? As soon as I start thinking, I'd like to live like that. I want to be simpler. I want to whatever. But you're like, yeah, but I don't have $100,000 to go buy a farm.
Right.
Or, whatever. Because what am I going to do when I get there? Because I
don't know how to farm. I don't know how to milk cows.
And that's cool. Like, you know what? I can get my own food. I can do whatever. But I still got to pay the tax, man.
Right.
And if I don't I'm going to have
buying
a mortgage,
that anyway.
I'm going to, whatever. That doesn't make sense,
Right.
So how do we get there?
Well, let's start by figuring out what you can do right now.
Okay.
In the circumstances.
Like simpler steps?
Right. So you got to start working towards living a debt-free life. Right? So you're going to start with basics, cutting the unnecessary costs now. The gym membership you don't use. The cable that just makes you angry every time you turn it on.
Yeah, I already cut the cable.
Yeah, that's something that I need to do, because every time I turn it on and flip it to CNN or any of the news channels, I just get angry and want to kick my TV.
You know what it was? I just got tired of watching commercials.
Yeah.
I'm like,
right.
I just get enraged.
It's 95% ads stuff I'm not even going to buy.
I have to pee a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't have to pee that much. Not with the commercials they have. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. So, those are some basic things. A lot of people have those bills that they're paying that aren't really necessary, you know? So, are you paying somebody to cut your lawn for you? Maybe just let that shit grow and just cut around your house,
All right.
Maybe get a goat.
Get a goat?
let that bastard...
But then
let
you're
that
not
bastard...
even paying for gas, right?
Yeah. Then, you need to start, quitting your expensive habits. And I'm not just talking about cigarettes. I'm not just talking about...
Although in New York, 10 or 12 bucks a pack.
Yeah, make you rethink that real quick.
You know what? Maybe we don't give up smoking. Maybe you just start rolling your own.
Mm-hmm.
Or, whatever.
There
right?
you go. You can grow your own tobacco even.
Well, if we choose the right state for our off-the-grid location, we can.
But another thing is like going out to eat. You go out to eat, you have a meal, you have a couple of drinks with your meal. Next thing you know, you spend $150.
Wow, it's brutal.
That's half of
So I can get my
week's worth
at
of
home, right?
Yeah. But I mean, there are a lot of other expensive habits that I'm not really thinking about right now. But there's a lot of different stuff going on.
I could go from maybe Fireball or Jim Beam. Maybe I cut it back to Evan Williams or whatever that other one is that's a little cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of $25 a bottle, maybe I'm 15.
Yeah, get the off-brand.
I haven't done that. I'm going to stick with the Southern Comfort, but
Right.
I'm just saying,
There's some things it's really not worth it. But
And
I mean, you can get the off-brand.
Like Southern Comfort to give you the off-brand.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't know.
But you can get the off-brand foods. You can get the off-brand cereals.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff. But, another idea was just get rid of the stuff that you don't need. All that shit that's in your house that you don't ever use, have a yard sale and get rid of it. Clear your house out. I got 6 couches in my basement right now.
You are a couch
I sit
collector.
on 3 of them.
You are a bit of a couch collector.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, yard sale that shit, man. Make a little bit of extra money while you get rid of it.
You say make some money, but
you don't really make money on a yard sale, but you're not spending.
eBay, Craigslist, you might be able to turn a little coin.
You're not spending the money to take it to the dump, though.
Yard sale, they're haggling over the quarter,
Right.
So.
And then, learn some practical skills. What are you paying? Are you paying somebody to cut your lawn? Maybe you need to learn how to do that yourself. Canning food, that sort of stuff. There's a lot of ways to earn a little bit of extra cash or save a little bit of extra cash by just doing some of the stuff yourself. Save $20 every time you have your oil changed by changing it yourself.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like to climb underneath my truck and get oil all over me and dirt and, all in my hair and whatnot, but,
Hey, just so you know, I don't change my own oil. I'm past that, man. I'm a grown-up,
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, I'm getting dirty all the time, so we all know, we do things that, whatever.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, bottom line, we all know what the rough things are, the broad strokes.
Right.
What we're talking about with streamlining. Look at where your money's going each month. I know a lot of the bank accounts now, or your credit cards might even show a little thing. You spend 20% here, 20% on whatever, and whatever. But bottom line, start streamlining.
Right.
Get rid
You
of
don't
some
need
of the
to buy a
bullshit.
brand new truck.
Well,
get used. You can survive. You'll make it. Just because your truck has a couple of dings in it doesn't mean that it's not going to run.
You're talking to the guy who paid cash for his truck 15 years ago.
You're still driving that.
Still driving it. So whatever, it's how it is. Now, do I really need to spend $1,000 on tires every 2 years? Maybe not. Maybe I can
Hey, listen, there's
there's
only 3 things that I think that everybody should spend money on. One of them's tires,
There
The other one's a good mattress and good shoes.
If
the things that separate you from the ground are the things that are important.
If I didn't have $1,000 tires on my truck wouldn't be worth $1,000. So there you go. So that's maybe the thing. It makes me feel better about life.
I wrecked my car a couple of weeks ago, and they totaled it out. I bought the car back from them.
Right.
And they charged me the amount that we'd get for it for scrapping it.
Yeah.
And it was about $600. $600 for scrapping it.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I've scrapped cars.
That you don't recently get $600.
I ain't got no $600. But, whatever. And it doesn't have a salvage title with that? How does that work?
It does have a salvage title.
So what do you...
Well, I can still drive it. It's just a piece of crap now.
It's already registered. It's still registered, so you don't have to do anything?
No. Insurance company took it all up. Took care of all of that. It's USAA, because I was in the military, and they don't fuck people like every other insurance company. When you see those Geico commercials that you get mad at every 15 minutes, that's where your Geico, your bill is going to pay for those commercials and that stupid lizard.
I like that lizard guy. He looks fun. All right. So, bottom line, we need to start saving some money.
Right. All right. So here's some other ideas now.
All right.
Learning some practical skills. Make some money on the side, Maybe you can change other people's oil for them.
Oh, shit. Or maybe you're cutting their grass.
Maybe you're cutting their grass. You had to get that ride-on mower to cut your own grass. Why not get your neighbors?
Whatever. Just start getting there. You can, honestly, if you make some effort, you pay off the credit cards, you get out of debt, and, some of that stuff can be light years away. Maybe look into, was it Dave Ramsey? Maybe he'll straighten your ass out.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. I don't know that he's the right way. But bottom line, thin it out, straighten out the budget. And then, all right, so now we need to talk about, what do you want? What do you want out of life? Come up with a clear picture of what you want your world to be.
Yeah.
I know with me, I don't care that it's a cabin or, a house or whatever. Not important to me. I kind of lean towards the log cabin thing. Like that, think it's awesome. My wife, not such a big fan. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I just want a house. Whatever. And you know what? Smaller, the better.
Right.
I want 20 outbuildings, but I want a small house.
Yeah. Why do you want a mansion? You're just gonna have to clean all that.
I don't want part of that. I want 20 buildings with dirt floors.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, but then I want some land. It doesn't need to be all cleared. I've been really looking lately into doing a CSA. They have the community share kind of thing where you basically farm and you sell your produce. People buy a share of your crop every year.
Mm-hmm.
They either come and pay monthly, weekly, whatever, or they just make payments for the year, and then they can come pick up whatever they choose.
Right.
So whatever, something like that. I've looked into a lot of things. I was thinking I might even do a podcast on something like that. I see a lot of videos on YouTube of guys doing an acre, half acre, and getting $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Doing that. But it's a commitment. That's a full-time thing. But again, the bank's not going to give you a mortgage on that.
Right.
Now, I have some equity in my house. I could probably sell my house and go pay cash for a decent property, but not here.
Mm-hmm.
But I could go buy something cool in the middle of nowhere or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then are those people the ones that are going to pay the $100,000 a year for the community share stuff? Because those people already have gardens.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. We'll work with my fantasy. I don't want to get too caught up in this. What I'm getting at is I want a house, probably minimum 5 acres. I'd probably like a little bit more. But it doesn't even need to all be cleared. I need basically an acre worth of farmland. An acre worth of flat. And then I might even do a sawmill, something like that.
Yeah.
And then barn, some outbuildings, and that's it. And I'm happy. If I did the CSA type thing, I'd probably do, 100 chickens. Probably do some rabbits like we just talked about. Really kind of getting psyched on rabbits.
Yeah.
But that's it. I don't need a lot. I don't need my dirt bike track. I want a creek. Don't need a creek.
Right.
I want a pond. Probably dig a pond.
Right.
Put my own pond.
Well, I mean,
there.
everybody wants 100 acres.
Yeah,
with,
I'd like
with
the
forest
lake house.
and
I'd like the ocean
lakes,
front. Or
10-foot wall around the whole thing with well-trained dogs. But I mean, that's not.
But minimum, I need a house. I need privacy where I can shoot my guns. And I need, and that's important to me, I want where I can shoot guns on my property.
Mm-hmm.
So I need a house. I need, some farmland, at least an acre, and some place for some critters and whatever. And I'd be content. I don't need a lot out of life. As far as the off the grid stuff, I'm going to keep getting simpler and simpler and more self-sufficient. Do I care that it's 100% green? Not really that important to me. That's not my goal.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the end result.
Right.
But that's not my focus. Right? So that's my, like, what I want. That's my vision, you know?
Mm-hmm. So what I'd recommend, though, is, you know, once you look into this, you're going to need to invest in a little bit of capital.
Right.
You're going to have a pickup truck that runs, you know, maybe a couple of trailers, maybe you want log splitters, some sort of a small excavator to clear the land. But when you're looking at property, you're going to have to think about these things. You're not going to be wanting to try and level out hills with a shovel, you know?
Well, I found out with my rock yard
Mm-hmm.
that you don't want 3 acres that are surrounded by beautiful woods, totally private, but then your whole yard's a freaking rock,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't grow a damn thing without raised beds and fighting tooth and nail. I know I've talked about it before. But that's it. It's too hard where I am. It's too hard paying out the ass in New York for the freaking property and school taxes, and it just gets old, you know? I don't want to fight that hard all the time. And honestly, I could do without the New York winters a little bit.
Yeah. And the truth is, you know, no matter how self-sufficient and off the grid you are, you're still going to have some cash. You're still going to have to make some money.
Yeah.
You know, you're not manufacturing toilet paper on your property. There's going to be a lot of things that are, you know, going to be, that you're going to have to buy.
Oh,
whether, you know, even, you know, just taxes, mortgages. You know, you want to cut down on those things as much as possible, but you're never going to be able to cut that out completely.
Right. Now, the next thing I was thinking is you kind of need to pick a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Because if you're like, someday, that's what I want, you're never going to get there. You got to be practical, be realistic, you know, kind of lay out. Listen to what we're saying. Lay out a plan, a vision for, you know, what you want, and lay out how you're going to get there. You know, you need to write it out.
Mm-hmm.
You need to say, we need this much money. This is where we're going. This is when you hit some retirement benefits, or this is when I can quit my job, or this is when my kids finish school and I can, you know, move without whatever. Or maybe you don't care about that. Maybe your kids are 3 and 5 and you want them to have an awesome lifestyle. You know, you want them to grow up on the farm and out of the school. Maybe you want to get there before your kid hits junior high or your kid hits elementary school. You know, maybe you want to be in a state that has homeschooling is no problem. You know, whatever. You got to decide what's important to you and then come up with a plan of when, you know. How am I going to get there and, you know, how fast?
What I'd like to recommend, though, is before you do any of these things, before you get too committed to any ideas, give it a test run. You know, about 3 years ago, I was up in New Hampshire, and
Live free or die, that kind of thing.
That kind of thing, yeah.
All right.
And it was middle of the winter, and we were hiking up, and a friend of mine rented a cabin that was on the top of this mountain. It was inaccessible, you know, by roads and anything like that. And this guy had this nice off the grid piece of property up there.
Nice. You
know, it was propane lights. Wood stove, propane oven, and he really did it right, man.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot of you know, but it was hard living up there in the winter. It was cold. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of space in there. You know, it's you know, some of these places can be a lot tougher than you anticipated. If you don't give it a practice run, you might find yourself, you know, crying after the second or third week.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, you know, it shouldn't be too far from the life that you're living right now, you know. If you're not out there gardening, then deciding, hey, I'm going to be a full-time farmer.
Right.
You know, I already have a 1/4 acre garden going. You know, I'm not whatever, but just the same, I'd like it to be easier, you know.
Right.
And also, like, I mean, I know we're scouting out, like, once a year at least. We're going to some new state or whatever and checking it out. And not just to go see stuff, but we're going and looking and, hey, what's this about, you know? And try and find, you know, what's important to us. So, what do I got? I got So how much? Oh, the next thing, who with? Are your kids, are they all grown? Are they college age? Are they coming with you? Maybe, I always had kind of the dream that I'd love to get maybe 15, 20, it depends where it is, a bunch of acres where I can cut off for my kids.
Right.
And be like, you know what, here's 5.
Yeah.
And
go build a cabin on the other end.
You can do anything you want with it, but I'd rather just if you ever go to sell the property, you give me first dibs, to buy it back. Something like that. That's all, whatever. But that way you could kind of keep your family together and kind of control things. And also, it's cool to be able to control your neighbors. Say, oh, this is,
Yeah, if your neighbors are kid.
There's also nothing wrong with the idea. Again, you don't want to you don't want to be on top of other people. I think you'd be making a mistake. But, I don't know you. Maybe that's right for you.
Yeah, and I even saw some people doing off-the-grid things in apartment buildings.
Yeah?
Believe it or not.
I've not heard of that.
It seems, to me, counterintuitive. But, I mean, if that's your lifestyle.
And you know what? Maybe you have your plot and you can... maybe there's a 1/4-acre vacant lot next to the apartment building and everybody's working the, whatever. That's it. Your dream doesn't have to be my dream.
Right.
You do what you got to do. But the same thing, maybe it's you and 5 friends. And I would recommend, 5 separate houses and kind of cut it up in, if you buy 20 acres together, kind of split it up. But you could make a community for yourselves.
Right.
And you could buy that land together and,
and you can always,
however you want to work
You can always start your off-the-grid home as your bug-out location. Maybe you buy a few acres within driving distance where you can go up there on the weekend. You're going to want to keep it within a tank of gas,
Now, I like that for the bug-out location. But if you live in New York, I don't know.
Have to head to Pennsylvania or something.
Yeah, I'd run for the border.
New Hampshire, Vermont.
Something. But go on. No, you're right.
But I mean, if you can, that way you can start. You can get the property. The next year you can start construction.
Right.
The next year you can clear some trees. The next year you can start the garden.
And I mean, honestly, anybody should be able to find 5 acres for a reasonable price within a couple hours drive.
Right.
I mean, you can get out of New York City and find 5 acres.
Yeah, for $100,000 or less. Yeah.
For less. And if you're living in New York City, $100,000 shouldn't faze you.
Right.
Or you shouldn't be living in New York City.
Right. That's your monthly rent.
You could live, a little upstate from us and 2 hours from us for 15 or 20 grand. You could buy 5 acres.
Yeah.
It's all relative.
Right. Right. And that would be a good way, if you don't have $200,000 in your pocket. That's a good way to start,
Right.
Baby steps. And you can clear the land. You can build your off the grid home. You can build it, you can put the solar panels in when you have the money to do it. And you can put it together a weekend at a time.
Yep. No, that's, one of the things I was actually walking around Barnes & Noble today. I had to wait for somebody getting off a train, so ended up having time to kill, and I was going through the books and the off-the-grid stuff, and a guy was talking about a cabin, and he was like, you really want something you can't see from the road, and the first thing you want to do is get a gate with a padlock. And he goes, you put that there, and then it's your world back inside, and you can kind of keep the rest of the the people out.
Yeah, and if you drive around, keep your eyes open, you'll see some gates with padlocks.
And that's not wrong.
Yeah.
Again, what do you want out of life? Do you want to, live somewhere where there's no building codes? Or do you want to, and I know that's harder and harder to find.
Right.
I was just way out from here and in these small, nothing towns. And I actually was doing a repair for the guy, and I was like, oh, what do you do? And he's like, yeah, I'm the building inspector. And I'm like, yeah, building inspectors here? Because, I mean, if you saw the shacks and the way things were, I'm like, oh, I was blown away. He's like, yeah, 3 towns share me, and they all pay like 15 hours of my salary each week. But he said New York State was just cracking down on everybody and like demanding that the little municipalities, they were going to withhold funding if they didn't come on board, So So all kinds of stuff going on like that. But that's where the padlock comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do what you like, but maybe pick the right state.
Right.
You know, there
pick
are
the right
states
county,
that
pick the right town.
work things out.
Mm-hmm.
Although government is getting more and more invasive, there's no doubt.
Right.
But that's another episode.
Yeah.
So, all right, now, so think about, like, I don't know, you got something?
Well,
I see eye in that paper over
yeah,
there.
I'm looking over some of these ideas. One of the ideas that I was thinking about is, do a practice run, build a small shed in your yard, build a small house in your yard, do a tiny house.
That was the next thing on my list is, what kind of buildings do you want on this property?
Right. Are you good at carpentry? Are you good at roofing? Because maybe you need to plan a little bit of extra money. If you don't know what you're doing, you should pay somebody that does.
And you know what? But even that, if you don't know what you're doing and you're planning on really being an off-grid homesteader,
you're gonna have a bad
take
time.
some carpentry classes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe get a weekend job working with a local carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways out there to learn and maybe even make some extra coin.
Right.
But also one thing, before I forget, I want to say is, don't make your dream too unachievable.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get there, man. Enjoy your life.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get out and freaking own it.
Yeah, you got to live the life you want, but you can't live the life,
Everybody puts it
you can't
off
be a
like,
millionaire.
it's not going to be perfect unless I...
Right.
Well, you know what? It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be just right, but that doesn't mean just jump in like a fool either.
Mm-hmm.
You don't say, oh, well, I'll just get rid of everything and take my 10 grand and...
Right.
And
bring my tent, throw my tent in the car.
Alaska with that family up there, whoever, I don't even remember. But, that's, you got to have goals. But, maybe that's enough. Maybe buying a $5,000 acre next to state land or something,
mm-hmm.
and you tent it and you whatever, maybe that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your soul needs it, maybe you
right.
need to get out. Do what you gotta. Now, you need to think about, how am I going to make money?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you have any more on buildings?
No.
So how am I going to make money when I do make this lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about the community share agreement stuff, but again, that's not the only thing.
Right.
To me, that it would be kind of foolish to just think I could just jump in and count on that as enough. The trades are big for this type of lifestyle. There's a lot you can do with a pickup.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen whole books on, how to make money with a pickup, and
mm-hmm.
I think there's ebooks about it and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of things you can do, out harvesting firewood.
Yeah.
I know we talked plumbing, electrical, carpentry. Also, if you're really going small town, then, a lot of these people are into the kind of barter system and just trading, effort.
Right.
But you got to get involved and be part of the community.
Right.
When you're making cider or beer or doing butchering,
mm-hmm.
Moving livestock for people, helping people out with their building projects, it's going to go both ways.
Yeah.
The communities, a lot of people still do have that closeness where they work together.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to find that in the city, but maybe you will. Maybe there are, small pods, I guess, within, the community that, you can find people like you who are willing to work together and help each other out.
Right.
Paying the appliance guy to come over, paying him $250. I know I talked somebody into, I got Saturday, I'm going and fixing a guy's cooktop for $537. And he's like, yeah, do it.
That's, how much is the stove?
$1,500. I don't know. I was like, you're crazy. But same thing. Then today, I talked to a lady and knew, I can fix your Sub-Zero fridge, but it's going to be $1,200. Well, I don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I'll be back in 2 days. And, but that's more and more,
Yeah.
People, but I guess where I was going with this is, you don't want to be paying somebody $380. You want to be able to say, hey, you know what? Tony down the street, you freaking fix stuff, right? Can you come over and take a look at this? and maybe I can watch your kids for the next, couple weekends or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you're always kind of giving out so that he's already just happy to help you out.
Right.
But you also don't want to be the jackass in the community. You don't want to be the guy who's like, oh, Tony, you do this.
Yeah.
Oh,
come do
Mike,
me a favor.
do
me a
Come
favor.
do me a favor. And you're not, you should be the one starting and initiating.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no problem if you're like, you know what, screw that, I hate people. I want to go live by myself. That's okay.
Yeah, that's all right,
but
too.
But then don't be looking out for, then you need to find another way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that's all. You need to think about how you are going to do the electricity and the power on your property.
Right.
How are you going to heat your house? How are you going to, get water?
Right. There are a lot of things that that living off the grid that you're going to have to take care of on your own. Wiring up the solar panels, whatever it is that you want to do with it with electricity. You don't necessarily need electricity to live,
and
but life can get a little miserable. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to have a little than to have none. But you need to pick and choose there.
Mm-hmm.
Water. You're not always. It's not always easy to get water, and
right.
reliable.
And just because you have a stream by your house doesn't mean you can just go down there and grab a bucket and drink it.
No. So these are the things that you need to think about beforehand. What are you gonna do with your trash?
Mm-hmm.
And there are ways to deal with it, but think about these things beforehand. That's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Clothes, I don't know. Some people don't really go through clothes. If you're out doing hard work, maybe you're wearing through your clothes a little more.
You tear them up.
We back to the making a contribution. Build social credit. That was, I guess, where I was going with that. But and then, what are you going to do for entertainment? So you get this off the grid life, and you're all set up, and you're out there, but what do you do for fun?
Mm-hmm.
At least make some homebrew, something.
Right.
But, think about things. What's your family into? Is going to the library and picking out some books for the month? Maybe that's enough.
Yeah. Board games can get old quick, though,
Board games get old quick, maybe you have a hobby. Maybe, I keep talking about blacksmithing, woodworking, maybe some furniture building.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like work for you, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Do something that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if it can turn you a little extra coin and it's something you enjoy and find relaxing,
right,
then that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm always refinishing furniture, and that's just something I do for fun,
Exactly. And, there's always a way. Maybe, being the hunter. Maybe being the trapper.
Mm-hmm.
Trapping, I talked about it in that other episode. Not every year. It's not always going to bring you in the great, money, but it's a little extra coin, and maybe you can set up some bartering for those furs if you can't sell them for a good buck. Maybe, one of your buddies, and maybe you can find something useful to do with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know
maybe you can use them yourself.
A buddy of mine who does the trapping, his wife is, whip him into a vest or, the freaking, I don't know, like Davy Crockett jackets or whatever.
And the truth is,
he sells that stuff for $300-$400 for a jacket.
Mm-hmm.
So he took a deer hide that's, worth $10, $15, and his wife's effort turned it into $300. Now, maybe your wife isn't somebody who can whip up a jacket out of whatever, but maybe your buddy's is.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're not the hunter, but maybe you are somebody who can whip that jacket up.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you could learn. There's always, a niche. But also, I know with us, with me and my wife, we're looking at more finding ways to, create an income, a minimal, residual income before we even go off grid.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a plan where we're not busting our ass all the time. Maybe some rental properties. Maybe, maybe flip some houses, build up some extra equity, and then, buy some rentals.
Mm-hmm.
I've had rental properties in the past. It's not hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little pain in the ass to deal with the banks and convince them that whatever,
mm-hmm.
but start small. There is a way if you come up with a plan.
Right. Now, if you have a good piece of property, a lot of people are looking to store boats and things like that, over the winter. If you got some place that you can store it indoors,
Yeah.
that's a good bit of little extra cash for not doing anything.
You don't want the barn where the mice and everything's going to destroy it unless it's something that's going to be okay. But make sure, what you got is what you're offering is what you can provide, I guess, is the answer. Just remember your word's your bond. That's the way I see it.
Right.
But with that, that's pretty much where I wanted to go.
Well, you want to, let me hit on one thing here.
All right.
When you start shopping for land.
All right.
So, I mean, what are some things that you're thinking about? You're thinking about, you want a water source, right? You want farmable land, if that's what you want to do.
Right.
Hardwood trees on the property is always a plus, even if you just use it for
firewood.
For fire,
I've seen people on a property and then buy 40 acres, let people come in and take the trees, and then they get the 40 acres pretty much for free. It depends.
Right.
It depends where you are. Some places you're not going to get land that cheap, but other places you can.
Yeah.
So there's definitely options, things to consider.
Maybe climate is another thing.
Yeah.
Just are you going to be able to? How many months out of the year are you going to be able to farm? Or how many months out of the year are you going to be able to grow vegetables? Think about emergency. What are your area prone to blizzards or tornadoes or hurricanes? You might want to think about that sort of stuff when you're looking at a property. We talked about zoning and building codes, right?
Yeah.
But what about mineral and water rights? Some of those things, some of the western states really have some issues with that.
Right.
And do you have natural building materials on the property to save a little bit of cash? These are all things that you might want to think about when you start doing some shopping.
Yeah, because the value, if you have all these resources available to you, the value of the property may be worth spending, an extra $50,000 somewhere. May be worth the difference.
Right. Is there a grove of black walnut trees? Because you'll make that $50,000 back quick.
So, these are the things you can think about. Now, the other thing is selecting what state, and I forgot, but you want to decide where you're going to go. What are the gun laws like? That's the first question I'm asking. But what are the building codes like?
See, my first opinion on that is what's the fine and jail time for prostitution? That's really one of my concerns. Yeah.
Well,
so
guess what? I know where there's a website where you can evaluate that.
All right.
So turns out if you guys check out freedomin50states.org. Now this is from the Cato Institute, and it's 550. So you can maybe search that out. I'm sure if you type it in, it'll come up. I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes. But this is a great resource when you're trying to, find out where you want to go. We got a listener sent us an email, as always. Mike sent us a bunch of emails over the years. He supports us on Patreon. He's awesome. And he wanted to know, if he was going to move and find somewhere new off-grid, how would he go about it? Does he have, he was looking for insight, different things. And this is really the answer. I hate to say it, it's as simple as this. One, if there's something you love, if you love New Orleans and Mardi Gras, and you can get past the heat and everything else, then, go for something like that. You love, I don't know, is there any other state that's worth visiting? I don't know. But anyway, bottom line, you need to decide what's the most important thing to you. Is it, the government out of my business? Is it, to me, that's number one. I don't even know.
Some people are into strict crime laws.
Maybe you're like, how do they treat people with the gay marriage thing? And is that, I know that's kind of past. I'm just trying to come up with an example here. You get the idea.
Well, say you want to marry your cousin. There are a couple of states where you can do that.
There you go. Education. I want to homeschool my kids.
Right. Is that going to be a big pain in the ass?
I think pretty much everywhere you can do it, but there's some states it's a real pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
And some states where your kids still have to take, school testing and blah, blah, blah. So there's a bunch of different things. You go to this freedomin50states.org. They'll show you the most free states, and you can say, all right, but based on personal freedoms, like I want to be able to smoke marijuana. They'll tell you what state's the freest on that, show you your options. You want to say, where am I going to pay the least amount of taxes and no property taxes? Because that's what I'm sick of in New York is property taxes.
And maybe you're very concerned about having a good education for your kids in public school. You're going to be paying taxes for it, but maybe that's important to you.
There you go. So, and, these are the things, though. But anyway, this website, you choose the category. It'll show you ranked 1 to 50, which states are most free. And you can decide who's got the tough gun laws, who's got, low property taxes. Hopefully, a lot of your criteria are met. But then when you pick on the right state, it has like a 2-page overview. And it tells you, hey, we ranked it here because this, and this. And, and it tells you everything. There's, tough laws on prostitution. There's not tough laws on prostitution. So you are personally free. You can just go out there and whatever you want to do. Whatever. But you pick and choose. And this is a great way to get started on kind of figuring out where you want to be.
What's this called? What's this website again?
freedomin50states.org. And it's from the Cato Institute. They do that Economic Freedom of the World Index. And, they put a lot of information
right.
out
And it was
there
founded by the Green Hornet sidekick, right? Oh, that's different Cato.
Different Cato, yeah. No, that's...
Founded by the guy that lived on O.J. Simpson's property, right? That Cato?
Yeah, that Cato.
No, it's C-A-T-O, though.
Oh, okay. All right. So, anyway, I just thought I'd point that out because that really can help narrow down where you want to be. But also think about your growing climate.
Right.
Think about, I hate cold winters. You know what? I hate the brutal hot, like in the Gulf of Mexico. It can be tough.
Yeah.
Think about like Texas. All right, Texas is pretty awesome right now. But also remember, everybody's moving from freaking California over to Texas.
They're going to ruin it.
They're bringing all their liberal stuff. They're like, oh, I hate the really high taxes in California. Let's move to Texas, and then we'll vote for all the same social programs and set them up here.
Yep. That's like everybody from New York retires down to Florida, and Florida's getting worse and worse every year.
It's brutal. So, that's what you want to think about. I'm just kind of want you guys to, come up with a checklist, decide what you want out of life, and get there, make your dreams come true. As far as that, I think that's about what I got for the show. How are you?
I think we've covered everything I wanted to get into.
All right, then I wanted to throw a little shout out to our Patreon supporters. We got a new one I'm pretty psyched about. Paul signed up this past week. Mike, I guess we got 2 Mikes, so it's Mike Vega and Mike Ryan. You guys taking care of us. And then Alan, we appreciate it, man. You guys, throw us a little love and helps keep the show on the air. And also, I want to do Jason Simon helped us out with the mics. We still haven't completely worked out setting that up, but it's in the works. There's still a couple of glitches, but I'm hot on the trail. So, otherwise, if you guys come up with ideas, things you want to talk about, shoot us an email at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Otherwise, make sure you're following us on Facebook. Facebook/Prepping Badass.
All right.
Otherwise, preppingbadass.com. Again, showing us the love on Patreon. Thanks again, guys. We really appreciate it. Otherwise, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today. Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.